I think we can comfortably say that we're not even mad anymore. We're just disappointed. The Buffs are back where we're used to them being. So we'll address it on the other side.
This is Voice of the Buffs, Mark Johnson, and you're listening to the Folsom Frenzy Podcast.
All right, welcome to the Folsom Frenzy Podcast. We got a short crew tonight, just Chase and Topher. Jake is somehow still on paternity leave, and Sreyas had some family stuff come up, so we're thinking about him. But we'll go ahead and get it started. Before we hit the doom and gloom, and there will be, believe me, plenty of that, we'll go ahead and address something exciting. So we had the giveaway last episode for those tickets, and we had a lot of people reach out. We appreciate everyone for reaching out. We're sorry, obviously we only had 2 tickets to give away, but Brian was the first to reach out to us, so we gave him the tickets. And obviously I wasn't there by definition. And so Topher, you got to meet him, and we just want to give him a shout out. It's always cool to meet folks that listen, because a lot of times you all are people that are very similar Buffs fans to us, right? You were fans before Prime got here. You understand the history of the program, and you understand how shockingly similar this loss was and this season has been. But we'll come back to that. We're being optimistic right now. But Topher, I know you had a chance to chat with him. Just want to give him a shout out real quick.
Brian, you're awesome. That was a lot of fun. Sorry the Buffs couldn't get it done for you. I know that was your first game in like 20 years, so it was fun in the first half. We had a fun time in the first half. So in the future, when we do these giveaways, please reach out. We love meeting our fans. I don't know. Do we have fans? We have loyal listeners. We love meeting you guys because it's the same lived experience, and there's no bonding like trauma bonding, right?
And that's why we do it, right? Like we definitely do not do this for a living. We do this for fun, and we do it because it's always fun to meet folks that have, we're pretty diehard Buffs fans, and it's been really fun. But there's been a lot of new folks on the bandwagon, and that's also cool, right? Like we really welcome those folks, and we just do it for fun. So it's always cool. If you ever see us at Folsom or around, give us a shout, because we love that. So with the fun part over, Topher, I think we can agree. This one I thought was actually incredibly frustrating, because this was a closer game, in my opinion, than the score would tell you, right? 42-17. I'll read the stats really quick. Jeff Sims, everyone should recognize from his days as a Nebraska.
I just want to say, I called that 4 turnovers. I said he's good for 4 turnovers.
And he
did it. I promise. I swear to God, Jeff Sims is a sleeper agent for the Buffs.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, he heard the commands and it's all like, understood. I have to do what it takes to make sure the Buffs have a chance to win this game.
And I wish Sreyas was on it, because I'm almost 100% positive Jeff Sims once won a QL Management Player of the Game when we first started out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and say what you want. Jeff Sims did not beat us on Saturday, yesterday. We beat ourselves in a lot of ways, and we'll come to that. But really quickly, 225 yards in the air for Jeff Sims, 2 touchdowns and an interception. 355 cumulative yards rushing, including Brown with 225 yards on 22 carries. He averaged 11.6 yards per carry. And I understand that that's a little bit disingenuous because he had that 188-yard run. But he had a touchdown. Udo, who's supposed to be their primary guy, right? Like, that wasn't even their primary guy that killed us. Udo, or at least, early on, was supposed to be the big guy for them. He also had a touchdown, 62 yards. And then Jason Brown with a touchdown. For the good guy, I will say, a bright, shining spot, in my opinion, and I understand that he was injured, or at least coming off of injury, but we did not get absolutely train wrecked by Jordan Tyson, so that felt good, in my opinion. Jordan Tyson.
He almost threw for a touchdown.
I understand, but he didn't. 2 touchdowns.
Do you know how disrespectful that play was? That was Kenny Dillingham being like, hey, we're going to do a passing play from a former wide receiver to another former Buff, to a wide receiver, because we just hate you. And I really wanted to make a statement.
Yeah.
And we don't respect you at all.
And yet, on the stat line, he is 0 for 1, no completions. So, anyway, that's enough of Arizona State. For the good guys, I don't know how to. I mean, Juju looked terrible, but our offensive line looked terrible. 19
Did
for
Juju look
38.
terrible?
Well, we can come
I'm gonna
back. Let's
challenge.
come back to that. Let's
Okay,
come
we'll
back
come
to
back
that.
to that. Okay.
19 of 38, quarterback rating of 22.3, 161 yards, and a touchdown. No interceptions, which we'll come back to that. Like I said, we'll come back to that. I thought our running back room played a pretty good game, other than one gigantic, horrific misstep, which I think is actually more on the coaching. Again, we'll come back to that. But in general, 30 carries, 135 yards, and a touchdown. That includes Juju's sacks. So we should really take that out. 21 carries, 139 yards rushing for the team. Dallin Hayden and Micah both had, in my opinion, really good games. You can see that reflected in our 12 players of the game. And before we kind of move on, we always forget to plug this little area. If you're not subscribed to us on YouTube, it really does help us out. And we would really appreciate it if you can give us a subscription on YouTube, follow us on all the podcasting platforms. And in the comments, I'm curious, we're at the point, I think our question of the game to put into the YouTube comments is, I think, what is next, right? And we'll touch on this a little bit later, but we're at a crossroads in this program. And I do think we have something to play for next week, and we'll talk about that. But we're really at a point where it's a what's next. Our recruiting class is abysmal. I don't know if there's really any other way to put that. I believe we're behind Mississippi State right now, like in the 90s. But we're at a crossroad. And this game, I think, really showed that. On the stats really quickly before we move on, Sincere Brown had actually an okay game, 3 receptions, 50 yards. JoJo Williams had himself a game, 7 receptions, 39 yards. Marion Miller had that touchdown, 3 receptions, 35 yards. Those are kind of the ones that really stick out to me. And I do think the defense played better generally than we believe. So that's kind of the prelude. That's kind of the overall thoughts of the game. Topher, let's hit the elephant in the room, I guess. I don't know which one's the bigger elephant in the room, but let's talk about it, Juju. And I'm curious what people think in the comments. And I guarantee you, we tend to have a more pro, everything CU does is great and perfect in every way comment section. So I suspect I'm going to get absolutely shredded there. And I'm here for that, right? But I did not think Juju play. I mean, Juju was the guy, right? He got the first team reps. He knew he was starting. I understand that he's young. And there were flashes, right? And I completely understand, right? Your probably top 10 left tackle was out, right? Jordan Seaton was out. And the O-line was absolutely horrific. I don't know if Juju had an opportunity to throw a ball in a clean pocket. No, actually, he did. He did have a couple opportunities where he kind of looked Shador-esque, where he maybe held it a little bit too long. Didn't see anyone that was wide open. And I will say he might be playing a little bit too careful, in my opinion. I'm curious what your thoughts on that are, Topher. He had 0 interceptions, but really didn't push the needle in a game where we were close and we were in spitting distance before the wheels kind of fell off, right? So, like we said, 17-42. Curious what your thoughts are, Topher. You were there in the stadium. This did not feel like a blowout until we completely gave the game away, in my opinion. But what are your thoughts? I've been talking for a while, Toph.
I thought Juju played well. Actually, I was pretty okay with his performance. Like, he looked like a freshman. There was definitely times when he would take a snap, and from his body language, you could tell he didn't recognize the coverage he was seeing, and he was hesitant. But he did come into himself. And the thing that I think is deceiving about his stat line is we also had like 7 or 8 drops, and they were back-breaking drops. The first drive when Omarion Miller was screaming across the field and it was in his hands, that he catches that's a big game, changes the momentum. And I think Omarion had like 3 drops. JoJo had a drop. Zach Atkins had a drop. Like, these guys did not help Juju. And the thing with these drops is they weren't bad ball placement. Like, if they're bad ball placement, I would say Juju had a bad game. They were not bad ball placement. Sorry, guys, I hit you in your goddamn hands. You have to catch those.
Topher hates the idea of us getting a family-friendly rating on the podcast. This is
sometimes football just requires a little more oomph. Okay, so I was pretty happy with Juju, and I was really happy with the comments he said after the game that I'm a buff through and through, which gives me some security. But we've been burned by Midnight Mail before, so I'll believe it when I see it. It's just this is just Last year was let go of hell. This year is just hang on tight. We're just gonna white knuckle this all the way through. Um, Outside of that, the run game looked better, and Micah Welch and Dallin Hayden both showed great explosion, great development. Micah looked more explosive than he's had all season. Dallin had a couple of great runs. His touchdown was a patient run where he bounced off a tackler and was able to fight through. I am very impressed with how those two backs looked. And overall, I think our O-line played pretty okay. I think Juju had a time, and there were some collapsing pockets, some with free runners, but for the most part, they did what they had to do without Jordan Seaton, by the way, right? So at the end of the day, we look at this and we had more turnovers than points off of turnovers, and that is an unacceptable stat. And that comes back to offensive execution. And so I just feel like everybody that has anything that set up this offensive system needs to be gone this offseason. And I heard some things, right? Like, we've been calling for the firing of Pat Shurmur, and I heard an argument as to why you wouldn't fire Pat Shurmur in the middle of the season, because if you fire Pat Shurmur, then someone else has to pick up the slack of whatever he was doing and he was in charge of. I totally get that. I would not want to have to pick up the non-existent game planning every Saturday that was going on in the program. So I just don't understand why he's still on the program. Like, the offense is so tainted and so stale and so predictable. It's time for a change. I can't wait until we see a change. Defense, I thought, played really well until they were just like, screw you guys, right? Screw you, offense. We've gotten you the ball an additional 4 times. 4 times. And what do we have to show for it? We're still behind. And the moment we have a chance to take the lead, you cough it up and just absolutely stab us in the back. We can't have it. So this feels, I'm pretty dour on the program. Like, as the coaching aspect of it, I'm really excited about Juju, because Juju can really throw the ball. You can really lace it. He had a couple of touch passes that looked amazing. But God, we need to clean house with all the coaches.
And let me show one of the. I have it ready to share. So we haven't gotten dinged for sharing these yet. We definitely don't have the rights to this. So this is off the record between us and our listeners. But for those that aren't watching, I'm showing the 3rd and 4, the touchdown to Amarion Miller by Juju. And talk about a touch pass, right? This is on, and I get it. He was very open, right? But that's
he was not very open. He
got open, right? He's got a good amount of
space
with a good move, right? And this is a good route, right? But we'll stop our copyright infringement here before we get in trouble. But that's a touch pass right there, right? And that's pretty promising, right? That's what we want to see. Now, I understand there's gonna be a lot of frustration. I don't suspect there's anyone at the University of Colorado because of Pat Shurmur, right? So when that firing will be the least surprising thing to ever happen. Allegedly, and this has been mixed. I don't remember if we actually touched on this or not. He may or may not even be calling the plays at this point in the season, right? Yeah, it's too little, too late.
Brent, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I think it's beyond past time. Hopefully we can get some big hirings, but there's a lot of turmoil, and this is what we were talking about earlier. With this is an inflection point, right? You're going to have a new athletic director come June or July. We should have a new one announced in the next couple of months. Coach Prime has his medical questions up in the air. You are definitely replacing your offensive coordinator. I would be absolutely astonished and incredibly disappointed if we're not. I think
we'll have an actual aneurysm if we don't replace Pat Shurmur.
I think it's fairly likely you might be looking at a new defensive coordinator this year, or at least several coaching changes in your defensive side, and that's a whole nother conversation. Because I know I've been more pessimistic than others. Justin Wilcox was, by the way, just fired literally right before we started recording this podcast. So it sounds like he's available, and maybe he wants to go to the University of Colorado School for coaches that don't coach too good, and maybe rehab. That would be awesome. But and Justin Wilcox, for those that don't remember, was actually floated at least a little bit as a potential head coaching candidate at Colorado a while back. But I don't know. I mean, this one was incredibly frustrating, like a lot of other games this season, right? Because the opportunity was there, and then the decision was made. And I get it. This is revisionist history, right? It's easy for us to be incredibly critical of this now because who knows? There's a chance that it worked great, and everyone thinks that there was a genius play call. But it is one of the highest leverage points in the entire game. And I think what was so disappointing about it was the way the fumble happened, right? And that's what I want to talk about, Topher. But you send out a true freshman or a walk-on?
Sophomore.
Yeah. Walk-on, though, isn't it? Like, I've literally never heard this name in my entire life. And like,
this was the second time. That was his second snap of his collegiate career.
I'm not saying that we are.
And when he first got in, I wish people were there to hear me say, I was like, what the hell is that guy doing in? I've never seen him before in my life.
And again, we don't keep up with the roster nearly as well. If you want podcasters that know the roster, roster forwards and backwards, the DNVR guys are great for that. We learn a lot from them, right? But you send out, maybe we should ask.
I didn't know his name.
We should ask.
I didn't even know his name. Yeah.
I'm gonna DM him and ask, did you know who Coleman was before he fumbled that ball? I'm really curious because you know the roster, right? Or Neely, right? You guys know the roster way better than we do. And I suspect that maybe they didn't even know who this kid was. Like and so I don't know, like,
know that one meme of the frat boy that like points at himself that like is like me? Yeah. That's got to be Ron Coleman's face when they're like, "Hey, you get in there. We're running the inside zone."
And it was not a bad run initially.
It's not a bad...
And then he pulls a Caden. I guess maybe you just always have to have a Caden Salter on the field for this team this year. And he's like, "I'm going to just fumble the ball." That's the only way I can explain it. Like, it wasn't punched out. It wasn't because it was raining. It was because Coleman decided that he wanted to just drop the ball on the ground. That's the only way I can explain it, right? And
his eyes got so wide.
Actually, truly, that's really more of it, right? And let's remember, this is the fourth quarter that this happened. The beginning of the fourth quarter. It is the fourth quarter. We are down 4 points. We end up losing this game
in the red zone.
17. We are. I think the fumble happens. Where is it? On the Arizona 12-yard line. It is 21-17 in the fourth quarter, right? And we certainly didn't play a perfect game before, right? We missed on opportunities earlier, but you are in this game with an opportunity to win, and you are playing a ranked team, and you are only playing for pride, right? And that's why I'm actually pretty proud generally of this effort, right? These kids have not quit. I don't think we can necessarily say that the whole team has quit. They played hard. Juju is a winner, and he expects to win, right? But that is such a big missed opportunity. And I get it. It's revisionist history because it was a good run beforehand. And it's easy to be like, oh, in the same way, you have Marshawn Faulk and you throw on the 1 yard line, right? Like, in retrospect, it's like, well, yeah, it was so obvious. Why would you do that? And you can't say that the rest of our running back room was struggling, right? They played well.
I think that's the biggest thing is the decision to send that kid out in that situation is unforgivable. It's a fireable offense. And
it's not fair to him either, right? Because he might.
It is not fair to him. I want to be so clear, Buff Nation, right? Like, Ron Coleman, this is not on you. As a coach, you cannot put that kid in that situation.
Yeah.
You just can't. And
to your point, Topher, what happens immediately after? The defense says, we are beat. We are literally beat, and they give up an 88-yard. I don't even know where the safety was. I don't want to rewatch it. I was gonna say we could do the film review real quick, and then we're really tempting fate on our stolen content restrictions. But that's the backbreaker, right? The game is over at that point, and we could talk a little bit more about how you just let them run down your throat. But that, and then the other thing that I really think is worth, so I don't know if you have anything more to say on that, but that is so incredibly frustrating because that is another game where we were hanging in there. I think there are a lot of, if the coin flips go our way this season, we are at potentially 7 games won, potentially 7-4.
Yeah.
Maybe better. Like, Georgia Tech's a win. BYU could be a win. This could have been a win. I'm sure I'm missing some.
TCU could have been a
TCU
win.
should have been a win, and so that is like just
West Virginia, right? Like, you
so
just can't.
frustrating.
So
And then
incredibly frustrating.
here's the other one in my mind that is unforgivable. And it's funny. So, friend of the podcast, I think he's been on the podcast like way early on. So if you're truly an OG podcast listener, you might remember Arthur, who came on. He's our math intern for our Twitter account, and he pulls all the stats for us. But he and I actually went to, because we're sickos, we went to the Kennesaw State game here, and then immediately went to the Georgia Tech Pitt game, which was on at the same time. We watched the game on our phones at Georgia Tech Pitt. And what's funny is earlier that evening at the Kennesaw State Missouri State game, Missouri State did a fake punt where they threw the ball, and I think they got the first down. I can't remember. But Arthur turns and looks at me and goes, "I wish I could tell you." Oh no, they stopped them. Kennesaw State stopped them, and he goes, "I don't think Colorado would have stopped that. I don't think Colorado would have been prepared to stop that fake punt." And it's insane to me that literally later that day, that happens. And you have to remember, right? Kenny Dillingham, this is his calling card. Kenny Dillingham is a lunatic. He goes for it all the time. And so I don't remember. Do you remember, Topher? It was like 4th and 1 maybe on our side of the field. And Kenny Dillingham goes out to punt. And Arthur and I look at each other and we go, that's incredibly strange, right? Everyone in the stadium probably that knows anything about Kenny Dillingham probably went, that's incredibly strange that he's punting here. We should be really careful because it's Kenny Dillingham. And he and I literally looked at each other and went, that's really strange. Hopefully we're watching for a fake. And what does he do? Their punter turns into the best quarterback at the stadium last night and throws for what? I can't even find the play, but it was like for 30 yards.
I don't know if it was quite for that
it
much.
Felt like it was for forever.
It was backbreaking. It felt like there was nobody around him. It felt like there was nobody around him for like 30 yards.
That is insane. I bet we can find it on the box.
That's flat disrespectful. It was for 19
yards.
Again,
it was for 19 yards.
It's flat disrespectful. It is just like, you know what? I bet we're gonna get this look, and
but it's not
they're not gonna be
disrespectful.
ready for it.
It's not well, it is disrespectful, but it is him saying, "This is not a well-coached team." It's not.
Yeah,
our special teams are not well coached. They are consistently. I mean, we talked about this a few weeks ago.
Our specialists are talented, though. I want to say that our specialists are talented.
But you're not yelling "fire, fire, fire" as a punt returner, right? And you let someone you effectively muff a punt that way. And this happens against a team that you know loves to roll the dice, right? It's not like this was a Carl Jarrell football team out in punt formation, right? You knew that they were going to punt. In this instance, anyway, I'll get off my high horse on that. But in my opinion, those are two plays where the game completely flipped the script, where it went from we have a chance, and that's coaching, right? Kenny Dillingham literally increases his team's EV win probability, in my opinion, by doing stuff like that, right? And we just weren't ready for it. And I think that's borderline unforgivable, and it just kind of is what it is, right? But I don't know if you have anything to add on that, Toph. And I don't even remember if they scored on that drive after that pass, but I just that was a huge missed opportunity, and it's incredibly disappointed. And it's unfortunate because that's the last game in Folsom, right? That was a lot of students' last game as a student, and hopefully they'll come back as alums. But that was a lot of players' last games in Folsom Field, and so it would have been really nice to win that one, especially when it was so there. Now, in general, was this probably good for the Big 12? Yes. Did Georgia Tech's loss yesterday pretty much guarantee the ACC to only be a one-bid league? Yes. Is that good for the Big 12? Yes. But it would have been kind of nice for the Buffs and for this program to show a sign of life. And we have an opportunity next week at Kansas State. So, Toph, I don't know if you have anything else beyond that. I'm really on my high horse, but I guess we have to be. There's only two of us here to record tonight, right?
Yeah. We get to kind of just soapbox this a little bit. Before that debacle of a fumble, the energy in the stadium was that of a top 25 upset again. I could feel it. I was like, we're going to score here, and I think we're going to win. And, despite the fact that we didn't distribute that many tickets, the crowd, other than, the okay student section, was pretty okay. I was pretty impressed with how terrible things have been. I think there was some recognition from the crowd of this could be a historic moment, Juju's first start One other thing I do want to point out coaching-wise, there was a 4th and 1 or 4th and 2 that they scored a touchdown on. We were in like a cover 0 man, and right before the snap of the ball, Reggie Hughes was jumping up and down, trying to communicate with someone to get in alignment, and we didn't take a timeout. We did not take a timeout, and they scored a touchdown on it. That is coaching malpractice again. If I have my middle linebacker flailing all around, timeout. Also, Reggie, you have the capability to go to the ref and be like, we're out of alignment, timeout. Right? Like, we got to be smarter football players there. And like, even if the coaches are going to be on the sideline like bitching at you for, using one of the timeouts, I don't care. You saved a touchdown. We know what the other side of the coin looks like. You saved a touchdown. And in the first half, that like timeouts are not as valuable as they are in the second half. So take the timeout there. You take the timeout there. And that sequence sticks out so vividly in my mind. Because once again, this isn't even clock management. It's just timeout usage. This is just like what you do as a coach of a football team on the sideline is to make sure your players are in position to make plays. And when they're not, to fix that. And we just don't. And we get outcoached every week. And we get shown up every week. It's not like these players aren't talented. I think they are talented players. I think pound for pound, this team is more talented head and shoulders over the 2023 team. But they are far underperforming the 2023 team because of just how bad the preparation is. Just cannot. I'm so excited for the season to be done so that heads will start to roll. Right? We got to clear house.
Yeah. On the bright side, my other alma mater, Penn State, beat the ever-living hell out of Nebraska. And it's unfortunate Jake's not here tonight. So we've been pretty pessimistic there for a while. Thought I would throw something nice in is that Nebraska got absolutely embarrassed as well. Let's do Q Wealth Management Player of the Game. We really appreciate Q Wealth Management for sponsoring us for at least 2 seasons, if not 3 now. Go to qwealthmanagement.com to learn more with help on all of your financial advising needs. And in my knowledge, and I don't know if this is an approved ad read, but I'm just going to ad lib. This is Chase's opinion. This is not the opinion of Q Wealth Management. The only wealth advisor that we can guarantee you knows CU football. So go to qwealthmanagement.com to learn more. We appreciate their sponsorship. Today, we could have done this either way. We thought about giving it to the running back room, and then we remembered the fumble. So we're going to go ahead.
I don't know if he count as a running back because he's on the roster as a wide receiver.
And was running the football and fumbled.
And was running the football. Again, coaching malpractice.
But
continue.
We decided to give this one to Dallin Hayden. 10 carries, 65 yards and a touchdown. Very easily could have given it to Michael Welch. They both had really, really, really good games. They just truly really good games, especially in a game where Jordan Seat was not playing. On defense, we decided, this is not necessarily this is not run by a computer. This award, believe it or not, this is an award that comes from the heart of the podcasting crew, and in this instance, we gave it to Sean Myers. In part because, if I remember correctly, he is a senior, and it was senior night, and it could have gone either way, in our opinion, Sean Myers or John Slaughter. John Slaughter did have an interception and was participating in a fumble recovery. Slaughter, you probably deserve it. We're just going to throw that out there. But you didn't win it this time.
But Sean Myers also had an interception fumble recovery. Like, technically, the ball was never on the ground for his fumble recovery, so it could have been a pick as well. So, that's my argument back, is that That
had a great game.
Both
had a great game. How blessed are we? How blessed are we in a game that shows as a blowout to have 2 players on defense that deserved the Q Wealth Management Player of the Game, and then special teams. I was so upset about the fake punt that I almost thought about just canceling the special teams award. But Damon Greaves really did have a good game. 46.6 yard average, only 1 touchback, pinned 1 within the 20, and had a long of 52 yards. Unfortunately, he only had 419 yards of punting. Really would have liked to see 1 more from our guy Damon Greaves, but overall had a great game. Mata had a pretty good game as well, but that's just how it goes. Complain directly to QLF management if you have an issue with our selections this week, and maybe get your financial needs taken care of while you're on the phone. So shout out to them. Topher, that's really all I got. I know it's going to be a shorter episode, but that's really all my big takeaways from ASU. I think we have bigger fish to fry on kind of the next steps, but we can do our preview really quick on Kansas State as well, unless you got anything else on that game.
Which team do you think was more poorly coached, the 2022 team or this team?
Let's come back to that. Real quick, we'll do our preview.
Okay.
Colorado goes into Manhattan, Kansas, who is fighting for bowl eligibility, by the way.
Oh, my God.
After losing an absolutely heartbreaking game at Utah, 51-47.
They're going to run for 500 yards on us.
And I'm glad you bring that up, Topher, because I was about to read that statistic.
They might set a new record.
I know what you're thinking. 51-47. Man, that must have been a lot of passing yards in that game. Nope. K-State had 102 passing yards and 472 rushing yards against the Utah team that absolutely beat the tar out of the Buffaloes. So Avery Johnson is really not that good. Their running back room and Joe Jackson looks pretty good.
They might be that good.
They're opening up. I don't think K-State's that good of a team, but they are opening up as a 17.5-point favorite.
Oh my God, it went up.
To my memory, that's the biggest spread the Buffs have faced this season.
Yeah.
You might have to correct me if I'm wrong. Over under 51.5. Now we have recorded a couple episodes before the spreads got posted. So, I mean, if you want to fact check us on that in the comments, so be it. And we're at Manhattan, obviously. I'm going to go ahead and just give my score prediction. I have been concerned about every team that has a mobile quarterback. Avery Johnson is, and every team that can just dominate games via running. I like the under for that reason. I think eventually the clock just has to run out, because if I were Kansas State, I would not throw the ball once. I would literally just run the ball every time. And I think we lose, and I think Kansas State covers. I think this is going to be like a 31-7 kind of game, and it's just going to be another sour note to end the season for a season that's just been letdown after letdown. I hope I'm wrong. I genuinely, truly hope I'm wrong. I will probably bet Colorado money line like I do every week.
Because you just hate yourself.
And because I've not been visiting QLF management frequently enough. And so that's where I'm at. I hope we stay healthy. I hope Juju has fun and has enough fun to come back next season. I hope Jordan Seaton is going to be back next season and has fun if he plays. And that's really what I'm looking for out of this game. I'm pretty broken on it. So I don't know if you have a different perspective.
I don't. I actually think it's going to be worse than that. I think they are going to try to see how many yards they can run for in a single game and see if they can break that record against the Buffs. And they might do it. I don't actually know what the record is. It's probably like 650 something.
I'm looking it up. 524 is their highest.
520. They're gonna beat that. They're gonna beat that. And you know what's frustrating is that Jeff Sims as a mobile quarterback didn't beat us. It was just the collapse in the fourth quarter, because we were pretty good until the fourth quarter. But I just think that after the way we lost to Arizona State and just the letdown in the fourth quarter, that's going to carry over. That momentum is going to carry over. That energy is going to carry over. I think the Buffs will score a little bit more. I certainly hope so. So give me like 63-21 and probably like 650 rushing yards.
Yeah, that would put Colorado on the wrong side of a lot of rushing records. Let's put it that way. Because if Sreyas were here right now, he'd be reminding everyone about how Khalil Tate, I think, set the single game rushing record, at least for a quarterback, against us just a few years ago. So hopefully that won't happen. Maybe the Buffs will come in and win that game. But to your point, Topher, I think we are in a shockingly similar place to where we were when we opened this podcast, where we talked about our call and said, wow, I just don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I am going to boldly say, it's kind of scary that this is a bold statement now, that I am still in the Coach Prime corner 100%. And I do think that he's going to make a lot of changes this offseason, and I think a lot of it is talent. But there are some incredibly big gaps in the coaching. And I don't know if he needs to bring in like an assistant coach that can be like the VP of game day operations or something. I don't know if he's really the type of guy that's going to be willing to do that. But there are some significant, like, we are losing games because of coaching, like, for sure. I don't think anyone would be able to debate that with us at this point. And so I hope that Coach Prime is the type of coach that can go out and say, I need to improve this area of my game. And I think, it's frustrating because the talent's there. I really do. I think the talent's there. But it's just not finding a way to come together. And like the commitment from the university is there as well. And that's the hardest part to take, is you're paying a coach, and we've talked about this before, $10 million a year. You've made the commitment. The assistant pool is there. NIL is competitive, and you should at least be able to be competitive in the Big 12. And you are still a floor mat. And I would be able to come to terms with it more if Colorado had never succeeded. But you just unveiled a statue of a coach who proved that it could be done in Boulder, Colorado, in the Big 12, right? And for whatever reason, the school decided that was not worth doing a ceremony for. But very deserved statue, literally unbelievable. And I don't know I don't know. I really like that. That is unbelievable to me. And anyway, I'm glad the statue happened. I wish that they had done something to honor it, especially, in the years after he passed. And I don't know if it was delayed and that's why, but whatever. Statue's there now, and that's good. But it proves that it can be done here, right? So I don't want to hear you just can't win at Colorado. BS. It's just not true, right? And I used to say, and Jake and I used to have this argument all the time, well, it's not that you can't win, it's that Colorado no longer is willing to put in the resources as a university. That's not true anymore either, right? We put in $10 million into our head coach, and we've built the facilities, and we did the stadium upgrades, and we've moved conferences to make sure that we're still able to compete, at least, for playoff spots, right? And it's still not happening, right? And so the rubber needs to meet the road, and I'm still on Coach Prime's team, and I know a lot of the old CU guard have kind of turned on that. And I hope we can be patient, and I hope we can remember, the differences in this program from where we were before. But I will say it is incredibly concerning to see that we feel a very deja vu moment, in my opinion, right now. And that requires a lot of change. And I expect a lot of change this offseason. And Coach Prime has teased it, but it has to happen. And hopefully it can happen with an AD that is as supportive of the program as Rick George has been, while we have a president that is as supportive as we have right now. So I don't know. Those are my thoughts, Toph. I don't know where you're at on that. I'm hoping you're not on Fire Prime mode yet.
I'm pretty close. I'm not going to lie. I look at the decision to put Ron Coleman in that game, and he took full responsibility. And for all intents and purposes, all evidence points to the fact that it was Coach Prime's decision to put that kid in that game in that moment. That is equal to the decision of Mario Cristobal running the ball when he could have kneeled it. In my mind. Just as egregious. Right? And I know there's pretty mixed feelings about T-Cal's channel and how he kind of assesses the decision making, but he brought up a point that
including in our own podcast,
right? But he brought up a point that Coach Prime makes a lot of his decisions based on emotion, and I don't think that's necessarily right or wrong, but that is the way he makes decisions. And I think the decision to put Coleman in the game is probably an emotional one, not one that was backed by stats or by, our two running backs that are being really good are both dying on the sideline, and we need a running back right now, right? Like that's not the reasoning, and I think that is very concerning from a head coach, right? And I know I went on my rant and my tirade a couple episodes ago about how you can be a good brand ambassador, you can be a really good recruiter, but you have to surround yourself with people who can do the other things for you. And if you override those other people that can do those things for you, because I think objectively looking at our running game this season, I think Marshall Faulk did a pretty good job coaching our running backs this year. And you overrode him in making that decision. That is concerning, because now I'm here sitting here thinking, even if someone competent is in that chair, is making that decision, are you going to override them? Who's to say you're not going to make another mistake like that? Who's to say?
The same concern with Sean Lewis, right? Like that's why Sean Lewis got let go, right? Like you were overriding and too many cooks in the kitchen, or at least that's my understanding. I mean, obviously we weren't there, but.
And so the coaching malpractice in that decision making, in the timeouts, in the clock management, in the lack of preparation, it is getting to a point where you can't ignore it. You can't ignore it. This team is losing games because of bad coaching. And bad coaching starts from the head. Like, you can be not the most talented coach, but you just got to put people in positions to be successful, and you're just overriding it. And I don't know if it's like an ego thing that you have to be the guy and you're overriding them, or if you just picked the wrong guys. But I am very close to being I'm done with this experiment. Because it's embarrassing. It is embarrassing.
Well, we'll probably be on this topic a lot during the off season, and after the last game, we'll do an episode, and then I don't know if we're going to take a little bit of a hiatus or not. Topher is a Rams fan. They're playing Sunday Night Football, so I want to keep this as short as possible. They just had a pick six. I hate to spoil it for you, Toph. We will give a shout out. We will give a huge shout out to our guy Nate Landman, the
Danville Hammer,
who I met a couple times because we went to school at the same time. I don't know if you ever met him, I'm assuming you probably. Anyway, and to go from an undrafted free agent to being successful and then kind of getting screwed by the Falcons, and then to now getting paid, we're really stoked for him, and that's cool to see someone from our class being successful. And then I'm just going to give a quick shout out. We're not great about this, and we probably should be better, but we also understand that the audience doesn't really care. But the Colorado basketball team is looking fun and flirty, and I got to give them a shout out. When Jake gets back, we'll talk about them more. But 5-0 and a really good win against one of our former friends of the program at Providence in a pretty big win. So there's been some scares. This is definitely not a team that's going to win the Big 12, but this is a team that I think is going to be exciting to watch. Kind of fun and flirty. Way more fun and flirty than last year. Ranchik and Hargress look awesome. Honest to God. I mean, we have a true, maybe some are saying, some being me, the best guard we've had since McKinley Wright. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm forgetting people, but could be. I'm just throwing it out there. That's my bold take of the season. And hilarious, Colorado State lost a bye game against the University of Denver, so I have to give a shout out there. But lots of other things we'll talk about probably more on the off season. We'll cover basketball. We understand that's not everyone's cup of tea, and we want to be focused on football because frankly we're bigger football fans as well. Last shout out I will give for this game. It was cool to see Coach Prime call the timeout, get Colton Allen in there, a walk on. Get a pass. He has a stat now. He's got a completion. He's on the all-time completions list for the University of Colorado. He'll go into the record books. I think it's really cool, and I really do appreciate that Coach Prime goes out of his way to recognize the lunch pail kids in the program that are so important to a program. And I say that because, as someone who was not exactly a prolific high school football player, but was part of the team.
A lunch pail kid?
And had to be a lunch. I don't want to take the credit for it, but I took a hell of a beating on scout team for a long time, and I think it's important.
Two days all summer just to be
a practice dummy, right? And so I think I probably appreciate that more than most, but I think that's really cool, and I think that's important to reward those guys when you can, and that's ideally when you're blowing out another team. But I think it's cool that Coach Prime also thinks about it, calls the timeout, gets him a passing play so that he can do it for his guys on a senior night as well. So shout out to Colton Allen. That was cool. I appreciate that. So with that being said, hopefully we will have a more full house. At some point, we're gonna have to ask Jake. He generally listens to the podcast. So Jake, this is me officially asking you when your paternity leave ends. We're bordering on a socialist European country on paternity leave at this point.
I hope that drives you crazy. That you are endorsing socialism on this podcast
and
with your extended paternity leave.
I actually don't know because maybe it hasn't been that long, but college football season. So anyway, that's all. We appreciate everyone for making it. We know that some folks do stick to the end because that's when we did the ticket giveaway last time. So a special shout out to you all. And as always, give us a follow if you can, like, subscribe, comment on our stuff, all that kind of stuff. It all helps us out. So until next week, hopefully we have an incredible win.
Hopefully we shock the world.
A Kansas State team that is not that good, but is going to be incredibly pissed off.
Incredibly motivated.
Playing for a bowl game against a team that I hope just has fun. But until then, Sco Buffs, and we'll see you next time.
Sco Buffs.